So there was a few different topics that I've been looking at for this next video that I want to do. Made a bit of a decision to actually change up the topic that I'm going to do for this video just because it's been 3 weeks since my last video. So instead of another school or another relationship video, I figured I would talk about procrastination. Now, dealing with 47,000 emails is a bit of a stretch, but obviously some people really do have an inbox that filled up. So now, to be real with you, I have no real honest reason or explanation as to why I took a 3-week hiatus for videos. It literally just happened. I want to say I had a few other things on my plate that were just taking up more time, but I feel like that would be me lying a little bit because I did have a few other things that I've been focusing a little bit more time into. For example, the TikTok shop, a new game that I've been playing on my computer. But both of these things, especially the latter, are not excuses for me to start slacking on another thing. It's actually going to bring me into the next point as to why we actually procrastinate in the first place to begin with. I guess in my situation, my videos, I like having substance, and I don't take perfectionism to the absolute T, but I do like my videos having meaning and being perfect in my own sense, if that makes sense. A few years ago, I used to put out just random filler content. I would literally be posting 3 or 4 videos a day, which sounds nice until you realize that it's a 1-minute small jump-in spot that could have never even needed a video in the first place. A few other reasons which also honestly build on why I've also kind of just taken a step back is the lack of motivation or interest. Now, I'm not losing motivation in content creation at all. As you just heard, I've been taking a lot of time and focusing onto TikTok, but I guess my motivation and interest is lacking in the fact that mobile gaming just doesn't feel right now. I know everyone's been saying it for a long time now, and Delta Force just dropped their beta, but for the most part, I've just been lacking the interest, particularly in playing Arena Breakout. So associating a huge part of my channel with that honestly makes me lack interest there. But I don't lose interest in content creation, don't get me wrong. And honestly, some of those videos that sit on my desktop have been there since maybe even 2013, just because sometimes with my content it gets overwhelming and it can give me anxiety just thinking about how big of a task that video actually is going to be. So instead of trying to break down the video and work on it piece by piece, what I do is I just put it off for a while. That is something that I've actually tried to work on recently with a COD mobile video that is not super big, but it definitely feels like a larger task, so that I've been trying to work at piece by piece. One of the last reasons that I want to mention is just decision paralysis. This honestly doesn't have much to do with my channel because anytime I have a decision on a piece of content that I want to make, I'm making it regardless of if it's tomorrow or a month from now. But you can always be susceptible to just finding yourself paralyzed between what decision you want to make, so you just push off that decision until it's almost too late or it's the last second, and then at that point you're still gonna feel the paralysis because you haven't thought out the decisions enough to actually pick a solid choice. Now, before we get to why procrastination can be a good thing, I just want to say, do not procrastinate. It's not worth it in any regard, whether it's content, doing school, your actual real life work, or even just personal relationship building. Procrastinating on doing any of those things, you're going to regret it. You're going to wish that you took time, created a cycle, planned out your thoughts and your actions better, because it really can impact your life, especially when a lot of deadlines or just important things start to pile up. The weight that you already felt from one thing can just be amplified by a ton of other things. Now, don't get me wrong, obviously procrastination can be good sometimes. Obviously everyone needs a rest. Sometimes if you just really don't feel like doing work, you don't do it. This past week there was a day I needed to get up, needed to record some videos, but what I did was I just procrastinated it, played this game for a little while. Once I got to recording, I actually felt a little bit more refreshed, as weird as it sounds, and it also gave me a last minute spark of creativity that I might not have had before if I were, say, recording right as I woke up. Obviously when you procrastinate, it's going to help you prioritize the most important thing, but again, that most important thing might just be because of the sole fact that you procrastinated in the first place, and now there's a deadline that needs to be met. So I don't know if that last one honestly can always be considered good, but it definitely can be beneficial in some regards to have things prioritized, to kind of automatically have things prioritized. One of the best ways to deal with procrastination is, like I said earlier, break it down into smaller sections. One of the biggest reasons that anyone in general faces procrastination is just because the task feels too large to handle. If you break down the task into small pieces or segments, go part by part, you'll see that as you knock out each of those pieces, there's really never going to be any need to procrastinate on anything. You can also create artificial deadlines before the real deadlines appear. This can also be with the last step, which is creating smaller pieces. You set a deadline for the first set, set a deadline for the second set, and go on there. You can also use your procrastination to your advantage if you really want to. If you're procrastinating one thing, use that time to take advantage and do another thing that is productive that you may also be procrastinating on. Going off that, it's also important to kind of just accept it if it's useful. Sometimes stress can be overwhelming and a rest is needed, but also procrastinating can be the missing piece for more creativity. So if that's you, don't entirely stress it, but still be mindful of it. Balancing procrastination is very important. Having 47,000 emails to read, it's kind of crazy and it is very stressful, but if you break it down into a few thousand emails per day, you'll see that 47,000 number comes down pretty quickly. If your boss has a massive project for you and the deadline is like a month out, break down that project week by week into segments of 4s. Just bust out each section each week. Or I guess if you're in my case, you can also take 3 weeks off, get your rest, come back, and just accept it when it's useful that procrastination can sometimes be a benefit. But in all seriousness, sometimes procrastination is just a part of the process. Do not let it define you. Don't let it remove any motivation in your work or in your actions as a person. It's important to be mindful of your procrastination, but sometimes it's all literally just a part of the game.